Now I'm recording. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what's known as the Beatitudes. And to kind of set the scene here, this is popularly referred to as the Sermon on the Mount, only it wasn't a sermon. Priests and preachers call it a sermon so they can justify their sermons. But if we look here, in verse 5, it says, "And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying." So this wasn't a sermon. It was basically a study in natural philosophy, because everything that is contained within Christianity itself is based on the natural laws of the universe. So basically, if a preacher says, well, you have to believe that by faith, he's basically saying you got that we're supposed to take his word for it. No. You know, preachers and priests go to college and they're taught how to sell the Catholic religion and the Protestant religion. They're not taught to share Christianity. So, you know, getting to the Beatitudes themselves, there's the first four of what they call Beatitudes. Verse 3, 4, 5, and 6 belong in their own category. The same is true about the next three, and then the following two, and then one. So it's a bit of a pyramid. As we're looking at the first four, verse 3, 4, 5, and 6, I want you to look at verse 6. "Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." I'm not here to entertain you. I'd probably put you to sleep unless you want to know what the truth is, unless you want to know what is right. So if you have a hunger and thirst for what's right, then you'll pay attention to this in spite of me putting you to sleep. Now the first Beatitude, Matthew 5:3, in this one short verse contains everything you ever need to know about Christianity. If you understand this one verse, you can throw the rest of the book away. It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now this is not talking about go to heaven when you die. This is talking about spirituality in this life. What it's talking about, and what, you know, we'll re-emphasize with these four verses, is it's talking about if you're successful in life, you're happy, you're content. All you got to do is keep being successful. But some of us, no matter what we do, we can't find success. And so we start thinking, okay, what am I missing? And that's what this is talking about. So if you're poor in spirit, it means you're unhappy. The next one says, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." Well, this is a double entendre. This says two things with the same words. If you're depressed, Well, at some point you're going to be less depressed. So at some point you'll be comforted. Also, if you're so unhappy with your lack of success that you're depressed about it, you're on the path to finding comfort. Now, the third beatitude, Matthew 5:5 says, blessed, no, 5:5 says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Again, another double entendre. If you figure you got to fight for everything you get, eventually you're going to try to fight somebody that's bigger than you, and that's the end of you. Where if you choose humility, then that will lead you to a path where all of your needs are being met, not your desires, but all of your needs are being met without having to fight anybody. By the same token, if we have not found success, we're depressed about it. We have to humble ourselves. If we think we know all the answers already, we're never going to learn anything. So you have to accept the fact that you still have something to learn. And that brings us to the 6th verse. Blessed are they which hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. So if you have humbled yourself before the Lord, which doesn't mean God, that's another subject entirely. But if you humble yourself before reality, accept the fact that you don't know everything, you must be missing something, so you got to figure out what it is. That's what it means to be called to follow Christ. Because the part that you're missing is the fact that there's more to life than just simple cause and effect. The natural world says, if somebody hits you, hit them back, only harder. The natural world thinks that's going to solve it. The spiritual world says, no, if they hit you and you hit them back even harder, that compounds the problem, which will go on to be a more compounded problem. So you get on the spiritual path where you start thinking about the extended ramifications of everything you do, say, or think. It's like when you throw a pebble into a pond. You get the initial splash when the pebble goes into the water, but then the ripples go out. And when they reach the edge, they come back in. That's what spirituality is. And it's spirituality, it's not mumbo jumbo. If you create problems are going to come back to you. It's like, what is that verse that, Obama got it wrong. What Obama said was, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But that's not what it says. What it says is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. People who routinely steal, cheat, lie, nobody trusts them. And this lying, cheating thief thinks, well, why are you treating me like this? I never did anything to you. That's beside the point. Spiritually, if you lie, cheat, steal from anybody, you're lie, cheat, stealing from everybody. That's the ramifications in the spiritual realm of being, of putting out problems. Those problems are going to come back to you. By the same token, if you go around solving problems, then that will also come back to you, because you'll have less problems that you have to deal with. Consistent with that, a sin is anytime you're wrong, anytime you make a mistake, that's a sin. And since nobody, not even Jesus, was born knowing anything, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is wrong. And that's what it means that we're all sinners. So if someone makes a mistake, does something wrong, screws something up, and you fix it, you're forgiving their sins. And the more you do that, the more inclined spiritually the whole world is to forgive you for your sins, your mistakes, and the things you screwed up. So now let's go on to the next 3 verses that go together. It says, verse 7 says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." That's spirituality. Instead of hitting that guy back, you just take it. You're being merciful to him. And if you're merciful to him, the world will be merciful to you. Verse 8, "Blessed are the pure heart, for they shall see God." In order to have a pure heart, we have to purge it of all self-interest. If your spiritual reality is based on what you want and what you don't want, then all you're going to see in the world is what you want and what you don't want. You're not going to see the world for the way it is, the reality of the world. So if I am hungry and I see a tree off in the distance and it looks like a fruit tree, and I start thinking, I'll bet that's an apple tree. I want some apples to eat. And then you get over there and it's a pear tree, you're going to be unhappy because you had your heart set on apples and it's pears. Whereas you see that fruit tree in the distance and you're hungry, you say, oh, there's something to eat on that tree. Then no matter what's on that tree, if it's edible, you're going to be happy to find it. So when it talks about being able to see God, it's about being able to see reality for what it is instead of what you want it to be. Achieving enlightenment, which is biblical, is nothing more than having the ability to see reality for what it is instead of what you want it to be. So if I'll give you an example, if then this goes back to Obama, when he came into the presidency during a recession, he took absolutely no steps to correct the recession. And so he was telling people, we're seeing green shoots, because he just wanted to give people hope until they stalled long enough for things to fix, because inflation eventually will fix itself if you don't do anything to fix it. Well, if you're promising tomatoes and planting turnips, those green shoots are not going to solve the problem you're trying to solve. And so if you're planning to raise tomatoes and you're planning to harvest the seed from your tomatoes, but you're planting turnips, your long-term goals are not going to work out because you're not seeing reality for what it is. You're seeing reality for what you want it to be. Now, if you know the difference between turnip seeds and tomato seeds, which I do, I know better than to plant turnips and expect tomatoes. So if you find seeds and you don't know what they are, if you're enlightened, You will find out what they are before you plant them. And it's like where Jesus said, before a man builds his house, he needs to make sure he can finish it. Because if he gets part way built and he doesn't finish it, then everybody will see his shame. That man was not enlightened. If you're enlightened and you understand what it takes to build a house, you make sure you can build it before you try to build it. There again, it's just a matter of being enlightened and seeing reality for what it is instead of what you want it to be. And my microphone stand just broke. So the third one of this set says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Now, when you were first called to follow Christ, when you were first called to follow the spiritual path, you caused problems. I don't care who you are. If you don't have success in this world and you do anything, it means you're screwing something up. So you start out as a problem creator. Well, what this is talking about is when you follow the spiritual path for a while, you become a problem solver instead of a problem creator. It says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Now, every problem, it doesn't matter what it is, every problem brings with it its own solution. If you don't see the solution to a problem, it's because you're not clearly seeing the problem. If you're not clearly seeing the problem, it means you don't have a pure heart, you're not enlightened, you're not able to see reality for what it is. You're not able to see God. So if you're enlightened, you've been following this path, you solve problems, you'll be called the children of God. So God is reality for what it is. All the physical laws, the metaphysical laws, all of that constitutes God. So if you're in tune with that, to the extent that you're able to solve problems, you're only doing that because you're a child of the knowledge that of that which constitutes God. You may have to think about that a while before it sinks in. But it's important. Now the next two, it says, blessed are they, let's see where I look at it. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sakes, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Wait a minute. Way back here in verse 3, it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So I've been following the spiritual path. I have these fruits of the Spirit, and yet I'm persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the proverbial onion, where the more enlightened you become, the more you understand about God, about reality, the physical and the metaphysical aspects of reality, the more you're in a position to understand even more. Now, when we started out, people didn't like us because we created problems. So we became a problem solver. Except now people don't like us because we're solving problems they didn't want solved. People who live complicated lives enjoy the roller coaster of their life. They don't want what's best, they want what they want. And if you've reached this point in your spiritual growth, you don't want what you want what's best. So people aren't going to like you. Still. The next one, it says, blessed are ye when men shall revile you, persecute you, and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. If you have a pure heart and you're a spiritual person and you're walking, your daily walk is in the kingdom of heaven, you're making people look bad. That's why Jesus was crucified, is because he was making the scribes and the Pharisees and all these people, he was making them look bad because they were bad. And he was the absence of bad. Additionally, it's like when it comes particularly to anti-Semitism, there can be 1,000 people in a crowd, and one of them is a Jew. They're all dressed the same. They all look the same. There is no way to distinguish the Jew from everybody else. An anti-Semite will spot that Jew in the crowd. There's something about that guy I don't like. And since, it can't be because I'm an anti-Semite, it must be something wrong with him. Well, if they don't see anything wrong with him, they start projecting their sins onto him. It's like people who lie automatically assume he can't be trusted. People who steal, he can't be trusted. Whatever a person's sin they're harboring is, they put that on the Jew. And if you're walking the spiritual path and you've purified your heart, and someone's looking at you, they can't find anything wrong with you. So it has to be that you are the person they don't like about themselves. Because let's face it, nobody likes a liar, nobody likes a thief. So if we lie and steal, we don't like ourselves. We have no self-respect. Our self-esteem is in the toilet. Instead of owning that, we put it on other people. Well, it's your fault. I had to do that. So let's go. I got to. It says in verse 13. It says, "Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt hath lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and trodden under the foot of men." People who are called to the spiritual path, who are called to the path of enlightenment, they're the problem solvers. They're the ones who advance humanity. If someone slaps them upside the head and they retaliate, then they're just like everybody else. They've gained nothing. But if someone slaps them upside the head and they try to understand why this is happening, then instead of making things worse, that by itself, by not retaliating, makes things better. So, and then verse 15 here, "Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, that it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So this is going to conclude the verses I'm going to deal with. But I'm going to give you an example of how this works in reality. I was lucky enough to be sent to prison in 2013 for something that never happened. I was absolutely innocent. And I know everybody says, "Well, yeah, they all say they're innocent." Go find somebody else to bother. I was innocent. So I went into prison knowing I was innocent, knowing I didn't deserve to be there. So I went into prison with my self-respect intact. So respect is big in prison. And the other inmates could look at me and they could see that I had self-respect. There were times when I was in prison, I was locked up for a total of a little over 3 years. And I never once preached to anybody anything. I never chastised anybody. But there were times when people would be talking to me and they would drop an F-bomb and they would immediately apologize to me. I never said anything. I didn't give them a look, nothing. It's just they understood that you simply don't do that to me. What they saw was that I walked a spiritual path. There were a few guys in prison that I talked to about spiritual things, not because I was preaching to them, but because they talked to me about things. They wanted to know what I knew, what it was that made me who I am. And a couple of these guys, one of them told me that they had been talking about me. And one of them had asked the other, he says, how come this place doesn't get to him like it does us? And the other guy says, well, we're down here and he's way up there. Well, people understood that my spiritual existence in the kingdom of heaven was obvious. I didn't have to blurt it out. I didn't have to rub anybody's nose in it. Just by virtue of walking my path, in spite of everything that happened, I was letting my light shine before everybody else. Consistent with my trip to prison, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It was easily the most rewarding experience of my life because it forced me to rethink my entire belief system. Before I was sent to prison, I was doing everything the way God wanted me to do it. I was walking a spiritual path. No one, even in hindsight, no one could have walked a better path than I was walking, and yet I got sent to prison anyway. So I had to figure out, what's really going on? What am I missing? So here again, it forced me to start my path all over again. I was unhappy. I wasn't really depressed. I was already in a position where I could humble myself before reality and try to figure out what I was missing. And so I systematically went through every one of my beliefs as an example. What does it mean to take up your cross and follow Christ? I had to figure out what that meant. And so I had to challenge every aspect of my belief system over the course of 3 years. When I got out, I was still walking that path. I was still traveling that journey. Well, in my path of enlightenment, I have actually reached the point. Normally, if you have a question and you seek the answer and you find the answer, that opens the door to more questions. That's what Jesus was talking about when it comes to living water. If you're seeking the truth and you find the truth, you have more truth to seek. Well, I've actually gotten to the point in some areas where there's no more truth to be found. In that, on those few examples, I understand everything there is or ever will be to understand with respect to those things. So anyway, That's going to be the end of this Bible study. I hope y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day.